What is up, everybody? Welcome to Stat Diggers, where we go balls deep into the next event, which is going to be UFC Vegas 36. Darren Till going against Derek Brunson. Should be a very good event. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to the main event as well. As always, we are here with Uncle Weezy. Uncle Weezy, what is up? I'll let you kick off the recap first from last night, and then I'll kick it off after that. So, Uncle Weezy, what is up? How was your night last night?
It was brutal, man. I think it was brutal for a lot of people. But as I was walking my dog about 15 minutes before the start of the event, a black cat literally crossed my path, and it was the first night that I started tracking bets on Bet MMA Tips. So this was not a good start for me, man. Last night, what an ass shaving! 1-5 on bets, down 5.2 units. This was not a night for me, man. But hey, that's the great thing about this show, Brady, because it's, instead of like licking my wounds today, instead of waking up and getting into a warm bath, putting on some Simon and Garfunkel and just opening up my veins, I had something else to do. I had to get ready for Stat Diggers. We got a whole new week's worth of fights coming up here. We got a whole nother opportunity to get last week back, and we got to do it. We got to put in the work. We got to look at the numbers. We got to look at all the angles, get into these fights, and I'm ready to do it, man. This is how we bounce back. This is what heroes do, man. It's never really easy, but we got to put in the work, and I'm ready to do it today, man. I don't know about you.
No, exactly. That's my favorite thing about the show is because we're already, research for this next card, so we can't really, be too upset about last night. And last night for me, I was right there with you, Weezy. It was a terrible night. A lot of my night did rely on the first fight of the night, which was on Mana Martinez. I had the fight doesn't go to decision. I'm absolutely destroyed the line movement, and then I also had Mana Martinez inside the distance, so that was a big part of my night there. Obviously, he did not finish Guido Canetti, which is weird because that was Guido Canetti's first decision loss. And that was Mana Martinez's first decision win. So I thought there's a lack of urgency there. I thought he had opportunities to let his hands go more, but nonetheless, that hurt really bad. My straight bets did not do well. Edson Barbosa, bad bet. Sam Alvey, plus 132. I personally thought he won. It was a very close fight, not even counting the 2-point deductions. But I thought, with the point deductions, I thought, Sam Alvey was going to, clearly win that. I did go 1-1 on my parlays, which was another big part of my night. I needed this parlay to hit. Muradov parlay with Petrosky, beat the line movement a ton once more, but Muradov got submitted. So that happened. The parlay I did hit was Aldrich parlayed with the fight doesn't go to decision with Mearshart Muradov. I think the best thing would have been to just go really heavy on that fight doesn't go to decision in that Mearshart Muradov fight. We talked about it last week, how that was a very good violent spot. So at least I was able to put in a parlay there. I did get the Abdulrazak Alassane DiChirico fight does not start round 3. Had a half unit on that at plus 150. And then other than that, the under 4.5 in the Barbosa Chikadze. Overall, pretty horrible night. Needed that first fight to finish, and then also needed Muradov to win for somewhat of a good night, and neither of those happened. But looking forward to this next week. A lot of spots are sticking out already, and I cannot wait to talk through these fights with you. I do want to say what is up to the chat before we do get started. And if you guys all in the chat, if you guys are watching the future as well, please leave a like. That always goes a long, long way. We have free UFC bet picks in the building. First one in here. What is up, dude? Daz as well. DPS Robert. We have Mohammed as well in here hanging out on a Sunday. The DXJC56. Nigel Lee hanging out. Dan hanging out. Wouldn't be a Stat Diggers episode without Dan. Beardless Mearshart is up there with such titans as First Round Kevin Lee and Tyron Woodley, the rapper. I like it. Monk, what is up, Monk? In the chat, what is up with you? And then Sean, of course, Asphalt, MMA Locker Room hanging out. What is up, guys? Thank you so much for hanging out. And I said we get started, and we will start with the first fight of the night. And the first fight of the night is going to be, let me scroll to it. Okay, so Jonathan Martinez going against Marcelo Rojo. We have Martinez, who is 27 years old, 5'8", with a 70-inch reach, going against Marcelo Rojo, who is 33 years old, 5'8", with a 71-inch reach. I'm taking a look at the last few opponents. Martinez is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Knockout win over Pingwan Liu, a split decision loss to Andre Yule, a knockout win over Frankie Saenz, a decision win over Thomas Almeida, and then a knockout loss to Davey Grant. As far as Marcelo Rojo, just made his UFC debut in his last fight, got knocked out by Charles Jourdain in the 3rd round of that fight. He has fought guys like John Castaneda, who submitted him in that third round, and then also did knock out Jesse Strader, which was a very fun fight for as long as it lasted. And he as well is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. So Uncle Weezy, I think it's a very fun matchup here, a very fun fight to kick off the card. Anything stick out to you on this one?
Yeah, this is going to be a good one, man. Rojo's a fun dude to watch. One of the best winning celebrations in all of mixed martial arts is he impersonates a raptor, and it is something you have to see. If you watch some of these Marcelo Rojo knockouts, the celebrations are amazing. But yeah, this is a good one, man. If we look at the measurables here, we can start out and see that Martinez is 6 years younger, and he's a southpaw. And we've got Rojo with a 1-inch reach advantage. So, I mean, it's nice to have that 6 years younger, 27 years old, as comparison to 33 for Rojo. And then if we look at the experience advantages here, we've got 50 more minutes of pro cage time for Martinez. We got 6 more fights at the UFC level. We got 75 more minutes spent in the UFC cage. He's fought almost half of his pro career at the UFC level, while Rojo has spent over 95% of his career as a regional scene fighter in South America. For Rojo, we see that he does have 6 more pro fights. He's got 3 more years as a pro. He's got an 88% finish rate as a pro, too, which is one of the reasons why his fights are so exciting. 14 of his 16 pro wins are inside the distance, 8 of them by knockout and 6 of them by sub. So both of these guys are pretty damn good in terms of being able to finish fights, as Martinez has got a 69% finish rate in his own right. And if we're looking at the striking advantages here, these numbers are interesting. Martinez is showing nice striking numbers thus far in the UFC. He's landing 4.27 significant strikes per minute, but he's only absorbing 3.81. He's landing a knockdown on 1.26% of his significant strikes landed, averaging 0.81 knockdowns per 15 minutes. And Rojo, in a 1-fight sample size, has been knocked down twice in 106 significant strikes absorbed. So there could certainly be a chance for Martinez to land a big fight-ending or a fight-changing shot in this fight, because those power numbers kind of jump off the page for a bantamweight there. And if we look at the solid 58.3% striking defense that Martinez is showing so far, and we add that to the fact that Marcelo Rojo has only shown a 36.27% striking accuracy in his one UFC fight. So, Rojo might have a hard time finding Martinez on the feet here. And then for Rojo, we've got Martinez has been chinny thus far in the UFC. He's being knocked down 3 times in 354 significant strikes absorbed. So Rojo could potentially land a big shot, as Sukumta and Grant have both knocked down Martinez thus far. If we get into these grappling numbers, we can see a decent takedown efficiency for Jonathan Martinez, as he's landing 3 of 8 of his takedown attempts. He's out-controlling his opponents at a 16.7 to 10% clip. Jonathan prefers to keep the fight standing, and he's been successful in doing that over 73% of the time in his UFC cage time. And Rojo has only managed 3.21% of control time in his one UFC fight. So Martinez, if he wants to keep the fight standing, should be able to do so. But Martinez only has 8 UFC takedown attempts, and his opponents have 19 takedown attempts against him. So the fact that his opponents are attempting like 2.5 takedowns for every one that Martinez attempts, it's pretty impressive that Martinez is out-controlling his opponents 16% to 10%. It's a function of how good he is at keeping the fight where he wants it, which is standing. And then Rojo, Martinez has only shown 63.16% takedown defense thus far in the UFC. So Rojo has gotten 1 out of the 2 takedown attempts he's shot for in the UFC thus far. So Rojo could potentially exploit that if he wants to. We haven't seen it yet in the UFC, but if we go back and we look at his regional scene footage, we can see how much he commits to his grappling and determine whether he's going to be able to go to that and get it done that way if he doesn't like how the fight's going on the feet. So potentially he could win a couple minutes, maybe even win a round with some grappling if he's able to get the fight to the ground. Rojo has 6 career wins by submission, so potentially he could do something like that. And then if we look at the strength of schedule, we see that Martinez has 7 UFC level fights compared to Rojo's 1. So definitely Jonathan has fought the tougher brand of competition overall. The Martinez advantages, in my opinion, are the measurables, the striking, and the strength of schedule. And the grappling and the experience overall is kind of close, in my opinion. So, I mean, I think that I'm leaning Jonathan Martinez pre-tape here. What are you looking at so far?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of leaning violence. I'm taking a look at Marcelo Rojo, and his last 18 fights have all finished inside the distance, whether he's getting a finish or whether he's getting finished himself. Like you mentioned, the crazy finish rate that he does have, what is it, 94% finish rate, 93?
It's 94, dude. It's pretty crazy,
94.
man.
Yeah, so he has one decision win in his entire career, and then Jonathan Martinez, he's no stranger to getting finishes as well, finishing over half his wins by knockout. So, yeah, for me, I'm kind of taking a look at a violent spot. Both guys have been finished before, and if you're getting knocked out by Davy Grant, I really do question your chin. And you mentioned he's been dropped 3 times in the UFC, so I want to be shocked if Marcelo Rojo can really hurt Jonathan Martinez, maybe put him out here. You mentioned the takedown stats for them as well, and we have seen Martinez taken down before. Andrei Sukumtov took him down 3 times, was able to control him for about 5 minutes in that fight. And then Luigi Barron was able to take him down as well 3 times. So maybe Rojo can mix in the takedowns also. Barron was able to take him down and control him for about 4 minutes in that fight. So for me, I'm kind of leaning towards the violent side. I really can't trust Jonathan Martinez. I think this fight's going to be a fun war. And if you're getting dropped by Davy Grant, knocked out by Davy Grant, it's really hard to trust you against a guy that hit very hard at Marcelo Rojo. With that said, I actually have question marks about the durability of Rojo as well. We've seen him hurt multiple times. Jesse Strader hurt Rojo bad, was very, very close to putting him out there. Rojo was able to turn it around and finish Strader in that fight. But we see the line here. We have Jonathan Martinez opening up as a minus 250 favorite. My goodness. And he is now minus 157. And Rojo opening up plus 210. He's now plus 137. And then we take a look at the under 2.5 rounds. It is plus money. You got plus 105 on the under. And then the over is minus 135. The fight doesn't go to decision. Don't have access to this line, but it is minus 105 as well. And the fight goes to decision is minus 135 on a different book there. So, Uncle Weezy, anything stick out to you? The line stick out? The over-under stick out to you there?
Yeah, well, Martinez 69% finish rate in his own right, and then Rojo has been finished in 5 out of his 7 losses. So there's definitely an inside the distance path here for Martinez, and I would say that it's by knockout, as Rojo has gotten knocked down twice in 106 significant strikes absorbed, and Jonathan Martinez landing a knockdown on 1.26% of the significant strikes that he's landing. So I could definitely see Martinez by KO being a pretty decent potential prop here, as Rojo has been knocked out once. But, it's still hard to pick a time prop for this one. But Rojo's fights are very exciting, very kill or be killed. I said 94% when you asked earlier. It's actually 88% finish rate for Rojo, but it's still, that's 14 out of 16 wins inside the distance for Rojo. So, yeah, I see this being a very exciting first fight of the night, one you should definitely have both sides of on DraftKings. And I could see a KO path for Martinez here. I could definitely see this fight finishing inside the distance.
Yeah, my favorite look is probably going to be that under, or the fight isn't going to decision there. I think it's going to be a very fun fight to start off the card. As far as like a pick, I'm actually kind of dog or pass on this one. I'll pick Rojo as a dog. Just have question marks with the durability of Martinez, and I think this is going to be a war. And I will say Marcelo Rojo does find the finish against Jonathan Martinez here. All right, getting into the next fight here, we have a very interesting one. We have Marc-André Barriault going against Dolce Langambula, Dolce champion here. He is 34 years old, 5'8", with a 76-inch reach. Marc-André Barriault, he is 31 years old, 6'1", and a 74-inch reach. So Marc-André Barriault is going to be 3 years younger. He's going to have a 5-inch height advantage, but he's going to have a 2-inch reach disadvantage there. We'll take a look at the last couple fights. Dolce made his UFC debut against Daquan Townsend, was able to knock him out in that 3rd round, and then lost by knockout, a nasty knockout in the 3rd round to Magomed Ankalaev. And then he just beat Marcus Perez as of late, won a decision there, and he has 4-1 in his last 5 fights. As far as Marc-André Barriault, he has 1-3-1 no contest in his last 5 fights. He did have a decision loss to Andrew Sanchez, a split decision loss to Christoph Jocko, a decision loss to Jung Yong Park, a no contest against Oscar Pereira in a fight where I believe he knocked him out. And then he just recently knocked out Abu Azaitar in that 3rd round with like a couple seconds left. So very, very interesting fight here. Curious to what you have on this one, Uncle Weezy.
Yeah, I can't wait for this one. This is going to be a banger, you guys. Both of these guys hit extremely hard, have a ton of power, and are really good on the feet. With the measurables, I'm leaning Barriault here because we got Lungi Bula with a 2-inch reach advantage, but Barriault's 3 years younger, 31 as opposed to 34. We like that. He's also 5 inches taller. So he's just going to be, probably the better frame for the division, while Lungi Bula is kind of short and muscular. That frame doesn't work well for conditioning a lot of the time. If we look at the experience advantage here, it goes to Barriault exclusively, as he's got 4 more professional fights. He's got 30 more minutes of cage time, 2 more UFC fights, and 30 more minutes of UFC cage time. So he's got 9 of 12 pro wins or inside the distance for Barriault. By KO, all of them. 75% of his wins are by knockout. That's the only way he's been finishing fights. And Dolce has been finished in 100% of his 2 career losses, once by knockout, once by subs. So there could potentially be an inside the distance path here for Barriault. And then if we look at the striking advantages, Lungi Bula has shown some nice power. He's landed in a knockdown and only 67 significant strikes landed. So that's 1.49% knockdowns per total significant strikes landed. That's pretty good power. While for Barriault, he's a kickboxer, so he's got great striking. Very nice ratios in the UFC. He's landing 5.36 significant strikes a minute and only absorbing 4.79. He's got a 48% striking accuracy, not bad, with decent power. He's landing a knockdown on 0.53% of the significant strikes that he's landing. He's got 2 knockdowns and 374 significant strikes. That averages out to 0.43 knockdowns per 15 minutes. And Dolce has been knocked down on 1.22% of the significant strikes he's absorbed. So there definitely could be a path here for Barriault to land a big shot. And then for grappling, we could see, if we look at the control time numbers, that 68% of Dolce's 3 UFC fights have taken place in control time positions, while for Barriault it's about 39%. So Dolce seems to be more comfortable in that grappling realm. 50% takedown accuracy thus far for Lungi Bula. That's averaging 2.07 takedowns per 15 minutes. And Barriault's takedown defense is average. It's 72%. It's right in the meaty part of the curve. And he gets taken down an average of 1.72 times per 15 minutes. And he's getting controlled about 24% of his UFC cage time. So there could be a path for Dolce to win minutes and rounds with a little bit of grappling, top control, and ground and pound. While Barriault, he tends to prefer to keep the fight standing at kickboxing range. He's only got 8 takedown attempts in 5 fights, only got 2 of them. However, even though his opponents have attempted way more takedowns than Marc has, his opponents has attempted 29 takedowns, while Marc has only attempted 8. He's only getting out-controlled 24% to 14.64%. So he's been good at not getting dominated in the grappling exchanges, even though his opponents are going to the grappling exchanges way more and initiating them, I should say, than Marc is. And for strength of schedule, we got Barriault has fought the better competition on the aggregate. He spent a higher percentage of his career at the highest level. So, for Lungi Bula, just in the numbers, I would look and say that the advantage for him is the grappling. He seems to be more comfortable in that grappling realm, as over 2/3 of his fights are taking place in grappling positions. While for Barriault, he's got a measurables advantage here, being the bigger guy. He's definitely got an experience advantage. I believe he has a striking advantage and also a strength of schedule advantage. Because Barriault is a good finisher and Lungi Bula has been finished in 100% of his losses, I'm going to say that Barriault inside the distance is my pick. How are you seeing this one?
I like it. Yeah, I'm on Barriault here quite a bit as well. I think the striking is very important. Somebody mentioned in the chat that, I think Barriault is going to have a pretty big advantage here. He throws a ton of volume, landing 5.36 significant strikes per minute with a positive significant strike differential of 0.57, whereas Dolce, man, it's so low volume, lands only 1.85 significant strike per minute, and he's absorbing more than he's landing, absorbing 2.27 significant strikes per minute with a negative 0.42. significant strike differential. And not only that, he has a 43% striking defense. So very, very hittable is Dolce. I think for Dolce to win, he's going to have to get this fight down to the mat, and that's not going to be easy to do. Barriault has a 72% takedown defense, a pretty solid get-up game as well. And, Dolce was able to have success against Daquan Townsend on the mat, took him down 4 times. He had a little bit of success on the mat against Marcus Perez, but I think Barriault has better takedown defense than both those guys by a significant margin as well. And I think it does, play on the feet more often than not. And at that point, I just favor Barriault quite a bit. I don't think Dolce is going to knock him out or anything like that. Barriault has a very good chin, never been knocked out in his entire career. So yeah, I say Barriault stuffs the takedowns. Maybe he does get taken down once or twice, but I think he's going to get back up and just piece up Dolce on the feet, just outland him, just do more. Dolce literally does not much at all. He just kind of, stands there, throws like one big shot at a time. And, I think Barriault is going to be good enough to kind of, get out of the way and just outland him and just do more to win the fight, based off of volume. So for me, I'm kind of more on the decision side, but I could definitely see a finish as well. We'll take a look at the line. And we have Marc-André Barriault opening up as a -125 favorite. He is currently -150. And then Dolce opening up +105. He's currently +130. We have the under. They open it up at 1.5 rounds over, got juiced right away. It is now -180. And then they also have the over under 2.5. The over 2.5 is +120. And the under 2.5 is -150 there. Fight goes to decision is -105, and then fight doesn't go to decision is -135. I personally wouldn't touch any of these props. I think if there's a finish, it will be more on the Barriault side. Barriault's very durable himself, but I kind of like Barriault and by decision, but I'm very tempted on just, playing him straight. I think it's a very good matchup here.
I like Barriault too. Never been finished, super tough, and he's looked fantastic in his last 2 fights, over winning over Pachota and Azatar. And the Pachota one, he got popped for tainted supplements. So it looks like he cheated, but it does appear from what I heard that this was not an intentional doping thing. It was tainted supplements. I think even the UFC kind of acknowledged that, but he did get suspended. But, those last 2 fights, Barriault has looked about as good as we've ever seen him look. And he's 31 years old right now, kind of coming into his prime, while Lungiambula is 34. Fought the most of his career on the South African regional scene, not the best regional scene in the world here. So I am definitely leaning Barriault here. Not really looking at any time props, but if I'm going to bet Barriault, I might put half my exposure inside the distance and the other half of it just on the money line.
I like it. Okay, we'll move on. We're both liking Barriault there quite a bit, and we'll move on to what should be a very exciting fight. Julian Erosa fights are always very exciting, as are Charles Jourdain fights, and they typically do end in some violence as well. We have Julian Erosa, who is 32 years old, 6'1", with a 74-inch reach, going against Charles Jourdain. He is 25 years old, 5'9", with a 69-inch reach. So Jourdain's going to be 7 years younger. Jourdain's going to have a 4-inch height disadvantage, and then he's also going to have a 5-inch reach disadvantage as well. We'll take a look at the last couple fights. Charles Jourdain is 2-2-1 draw in his last 5 fights. Desmond Green, a decision loss. He knocked out Duho Choi. I believe was a pretty big dog there. He did lose a split decision to Andre Feely. He the draw against Josh Kulabau in a fight where he was like -350, and then he just recently knocked out Marcelo Rojo in that 3rd round. As far as Julian Erosa, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. A knockout loss over Julio Arce, a submission win over AJ Bryant, a submission win over Sean Woodson as a huge dog in that fight. And then he just recently knocked out Nate Landwehr and got knocked out by Sungwoo Choi just in June, I believe. So coming back a couple months after getting knocked out by Sungwoo Choi, there is Julian Erosa. Yeah, Uncle Weezy, pretty good fight here. Looking forward to it. And I kind of expect violence here.
Yeah, I mean, just to call it to your attention, I mean, these first 3 fights all look really fun, and then the next one looks fun too. I mean, we might be in, this isn't the best name value card, but man, these are shaping up to be some really exciting fights. And my God, Julian Erosa, always in exciting fights. This dude always comes to fight. He doesn't go to hide. He's he's either winning inside the distance or getting finished inside the distance. So this is a great violent spot here potentially. But let's look at the numbers. If we start with the measurables, we're going to see that Erosa is going to be 4 inches taller and have a 5-inch reach advantage here. So he's definitely, the much bigger dude. But Charles Jourdain is only 25 years old, while Erosa is 32. So we could see Jourdain, 7 years younger here, making huge improvements in his game still. he's kind of at the age where he could be doing that. If we look at experience here, predictably, we're going to see Julian Erosa with a pretty big experience advantage. He's got 19 more professional fights. He's got 165 more minutes of pro cage time. He's got 5 more years as a pro, 4 more UFC fights, an 88% career finish rate, Julian Erosa. Let me repeat that. 88% career finish rate. Equal opportunity finisher at that. 44% by submission, 44% by knockout. So that's only 12% of his wins are coming by way of decision. That's pretty damn good, man. That's only three decision wins out of 25. My word. While for Jourdain, he's actually fought a higher percentage of his professional career at the UFC level than Erosa. So Jourdain, 15 professional fights, but 5 of them at the UFC level. So he's fought a third of his career at the UFC level, while for Erosa, it's about 26%. So a little bit of an advantage there. Jourdain now has a 100% career finish rate. So we got Erosa on one side with an 88% finish rate, and then we've got Jourdain with a 100% finish rate. 73% by knockout, 27% by submission. So both of these guys are elite finishers. If we look at the striking numbers that we have available, Erosa is a solid striker. He uses his length fairly well. He's got a 5-inch reach advantage here. He does pressure quite a bit. He doesn't just stand in front of his opponents. Good volume, solid accuracy. 0.56 knockdowns per total significant strikes landed. And Jourdain's been knocked down on 0.7% of the significant strikes that he's absorbed. So there could be a path there for Erosa to land a big shot. While Jourdain has got nice striking numbers thus far in the UFC as well. He's landing more than he absorbs. 4.79 is what he lands per minute, and he only absorbs 4.11. He's got great power for this weight class. He's landing a knockdown on 1.51% of the significant strikes that he's landed. And in addition to that, Erosa has been knocked down on 1.49% of the significant strikes that he's absorbed. So there's definitely a path for Jourdain to knock out Erosa, as we've seen Erosa get chin checked quite a few times. As a matter of fact, Julian Erosa has 5 UFC losses, and 4 of them are by knockout inside the distance. So, I mean, if we're looking for, a prop that might have a little bit of value here, if it comes out kind of fat, it's going to be Jourdain by knockout, because this dude knocks people out 73% of the time when he wins. And Julian Erosa is getting knocked out in 56% of his career losses, but in 80% of his career UFC losses. So definitely a juicy KO prop potentially here on the Jourdain side. If we look at defensive numbers too, look at Charles Jourdain's defensive striking, 61.47% in comparison to Erosa's 50% striking defense. So, yeah, I'm going to give Jourdain the striking advantage here. And then for grappling, Erosa's the more willing wrestler here. He's attempted 11 takedowns in 9 fights in comparison to Jourdain, who's only attempted 1 takedown in 5 fights. Erosa's averaging 1.29 takedowns per 15 minutes, 0.86 sub attempts per 15 minutes. And Jourdain has shown pretty terrible takedown defense thus far in the UFC at 47.37%. And he's getting taken down 2.17 times per 15 minutes and controlled 11.37% of the time. So there definitely could be a path for Erosa to win minutes in a round or a round or two with his wrestling, while Jourdain has been successful in keeping his fight standing 79% of the time. So even though he gets taken down, he's really not easy to keep there. Even though his opponents have been way more active with takedown attempts than Charles has, if we can look at the numbers here, we see that Charles Jourdain has had 19 takedowns attempted against him, while he's only attempted 1, right? So there's a 19-to-1 ratio of his opponents going for takedown attempts against him, right? But if we look at the control time percentages here, we would expect to see Jourdain out-controlled by a pretty serious margin if he's getting out takedown attempted 19-to-1. But we look here, Jourdain getting 9.24% control time and only allowing 11.37% control time. So even though his opponents have been desperately trying to get the fight to the mat so they don't have to stand with Jourdain, they haven't been successful in actually getting it there and keeping it there. And Jourdain is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt in his own right. So the strength of schedule advantages here. Erosa has more UFC level experience and has fought the better win-loss ratio competition thus far in comparison to Jourdain. However, Jourdain in the UFC has fought the slightly more experienced brand of UFC competition. So if we look at the advantages here for Erosa, I would say it's the measurables, the experience, and the grappling. While for Jourdain, I'm seeing it be the striking. I want to see on film how Jourdain deals with pressure because Erosa is a very good pressure fighter. However, I think that the striking advantages for Jourdain and Jourdain's ability to keep the fight standing for usually around 80% of the fight, that I think he's going to eventually find a big shot here on Erosa, who's been cracked quite a few times in the UFC, and I'm going to pick Jourdain inside the distance by knockout. How are you feeling on this one?
Yep, 100% agree. I think that Jourdain does knock out Julian Erosa here. Man, Julian Erosa is just so hittable. I mean, he blocks punches with his face. He's been knocked out a ton of times as well. Somebody mentioned as well, not only has he been knocked out officially, how many times you say, like 4 or 5 times? 5 times.
So in the UFC, 4 of his 5 losses has been by knockout, but just overall, it's 56% of his losses. So that's 5 of 9 losses have been by knockout in his career.
Yeah, and then he was knocked on the Ultimate Fighter as well. So this guy's getting knocked out like crazy. He doesn't have great striking defense, no chin, and Jourdain hits very, very, very hard. Jourdain's a finisher, 100% finish rate, has never won by decision. I like Jourdain here. I like Jourdain inside the distance. I like the under as well, which we'll take a look at. So Jourdain is a pretty big favorite. I don't necessarily agree with this line. I think that Julian Erosa does have some past victory here with the volume, with the pressure, potential takedown upside as well. But I do think there's a really good chance that Erosa does get knocked out, though. So Jourdain opened up -175. He is currently -200. Erosa opened up +150. He is currently +170. So, I don't like this. They open up the over-under at 1.5 rounds. So they're all over it there. The under 1.5 rounds is +135. The over 1.5 rounds is -165. I'd probably opt for the under 2.5 alternative line when it comes out, or I see the fight doesn't go to decision. Don't have access to this, but it's -180 on 5 dimes. So, I'm definitely like really high on a violence prop here, whether it is Jourdain inside the distance, Jourdain by knockout, or like the under 2.5, or the fight doesn't go to decision here.
Yeah, what's interesting here is that, on first glance, the fight doesn't go to decision would almost appear to be a lock, with Erosa having an 88% pro finish rate, Jourdain having a 100% pro finish rate. But if we add up the losses like we like to do here on Stat Diggers, we see that only 5 of these guys' 12 losses have come inside the distance. That's less than 50% of their combined losses that have come inside the distance. And Charles Jourdain has a draw on his record as well. So that's one more fight that went the distance. So it's hard to say because Jourdain's never been finished. Maybe the best way to bet Erosa is by decision if you like him there, because maybe if you feel that Erosa does win this fight, maybe he does it by getting the occasional takedown, by winning a couple minutes of each round and maybe eking out 2 out of 3 rounds on the judges' scorecards. So I could see Erosa winning this fight by decision. If I were to bet Jourdain, I would bet him by knockout or just inside the distance to get a little bit of extra value there, because we have seen Erosa finished in 4 out of his 5 UFC losses. So, yeah, I don't know if I would like to just bet the straight time prop, but I would feel like if you're on the Erosa side, bet him by decision. And if you're on the Jourdain side, put most of your exposure to the inside the distance side. That's how I would play the time props here.
Yeah, good point, because Jourdain is very, very tough. I think if somebody is getting finished, I do think it's going to be Erosa. So, yeah, I'm curious to see what they open up the Jourdain knockout prop, Jourdain inside the distance. I'll be definitely looking at that. But as far as the -200, I don't really love that, to be honest. I think that could be a little bit too wide there. But I will pick him to win, and I will pick him to win by knockout. So, next, we will get into a very fun fight. We have another tough fighter here in Ludovic Cholion, something like that, going to Jack Shore. Jack Shore is 26 years old, 5'8" with a 71-inch reach. Ludovic is 31 years old, 5'10" with a 70-inch reach. As far as their last few fights here, Jack Shore is 5-0, in his last 5 fights. I believe he's made his UFC debut over Nolian Hernandez, and then it had a submission win over Aaron Phillips, and then a split decision win over Hunter Azure. As far as Ludovic, he has 4-1 in his last 5 fights, notable wins over Vince Cachero, and he had a nice win over Yuma Horiguchi. Split decision win there. But interesting fight here. So Jack Shore was supposed to fight 2 other guys. I forget who. I think Syed Nurmagomedov and then somebody else who was undefeated. Jack Shore is supposed to fight them. Both of those guys pulled out. In steps in a tough fighter in Ludovic. Tough ask here. Very tough ask here for Ludovic. What is he good at? He's a good wrestler, good grappler. The striking's not there. And what is Jack Shore good at? Great wrestler, phenomenal grappler, legit black belt. I just think it's a really tough test for Ludovic to come in here, not only against Jack Shore, but short notice against Jack Shore. So, Uncle Weezy, anything stick out to you on this one?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously we don't have any stats for Shalinian here. He's an Armenian kid who moved to the Ukraine at a young age and has been living there ever since. First of all, because we don't have a whole lot of stats, can you tell me how many days notice do you know that Shalinian has taken this fight on? I mean, it's like less than a week's notice, isn't it?
It's less than, I think he took the fight like a couple days ago.
So so then maybe about 9 days notice on as a whole here. So that's always a tough ask. And then if you're going to fight somebody like Jack fucking Shore, dude, the way that this guy fights he just sticks to you, we look at Shore's control time in the UFC. It's over 62%, for and against in terms of, his fights. So this is going to be a very grueling fight, a very exhausting fight. And then you add to the fact that you're taking it on short notice here. Like you said, a very tough ask for the young man in Shalinian here. Well, actually the older man, but still young in UFC years, as this will be his UFC debut. So Shore is 5 years younger here. Shalinian is 2 inches taller. The reaches are identical. Obviously, experience advantages here is going to go to Jack Shore. He's got 3 more professional fights. He's got 30 more minutes of cage time. He's got 3 more UFC fights, and Shalinian, obviously, this is going to be his UFC debut. 35 more minutes in the UFC cage. He's an undefeated fighter, 14-0, and an 88% finish rate, finishing 11 of 4 pro wins, 8 by submission, 3 by knockout. In terms of the striking, Shore is the kind of guy who uses his grappling, in order to shut down his opponent's striking game. Even though Shore is not known for his striking, if you look at his striking numbers, they look fantastic, and it's a result of his grappling control. So even though Jack only lands 3.14 significant strikes a minute, he's only absorbing 1.61 significant strikes per minute. So he's almost doubling the amount of significant strikes his opponents land per minute. And in terms of the grappling advantages, as far as I know, Jack Shore is a judo black belt, 13 of 28 on UFC takedown attempts, 46.43%, accuracy on those takedown attempts. He's averaging 5.52 takedowns per 15 minutes and 0.85 submission attempts per 15 minutes. And he's out-controlling his opponents at a 48.73 to 13.54% clip. He's most comfortable in the grappling exchanges by far, and he keeps over 62% of his fights in that realm. He's a smart fighter. He sticks to the game plan. He frustrates and exhausts his opponents. In the strength of schedule, you would actually think that Shore would have a pretty big advantage here. It's not really the case. I'm giving Shore a slight edge here, but it's actually kind of close. Shore, prior to getting the UFC, didn't really have any notable wins. And Shalinian at least has a win over Vince Cachero. That's about as good as the wins that we've seen for Jack Shore, wins over Aaron Phillips and Nolian Hernandez. The Azure fight's a good win, probably better than Cachero, but, it was still a split decision. It was a very close fight. So, I'm picking Shore by decision. Shalinian has never been finished. He's a super tough dude, and he's a pretty well-rounded fighter in his own right. It's just that, Shore is just going to exhaust the shit out of him. And one of the things that I might be looking for here, Brady, is one of these 3rd-round props on Jack Shore, because the fact that he's taking this fight on short notice and the style of fight that Jack Shore drags his opponents into is what I like to look for when I look for these third round props. I'm looking for somebody to get tired in that third round and look for the exit. And Jack Shore is the kind of guy that makes you find that exit because he just is absolutely exhausting and frustrating to fight. So how are you seeing this one, man?
Yep, 100%. Like we talked about, just such a tough test to come in here against Jack Shore on short notice. Even worse. So yeah, I think Jack Shore is going to. I actually think Jack Shore is going to finish him here. I've seen Ludovic get his back taken. I've seen him get reversed on the mat. He's a good wrestler. He's a good grappler, but it's just not going to work against a guy in Jack Shore. Jack Shore has a very good takedown defense, 100%. He has stuffed 6 takedowns. All of them were against a very good wrestler in Hunter Azure. So he has that takedown defense. I actually think he has a pretty significant striking advantage as well. Ludovic's striking is just not there. Very hittable. Fights with his hands down. Kind of relies on his chin a lot. He's a very tough guy, but man, very, very hittable. Not much volume as well. And I think Shore has the advantages, pretty much in every aspect of MMA here, the striking, the wrestling, the grappling. And I think he does take down Ludovic. And I think he's going to submit him. So I'm going to take Jack Shore to actually win inside the distance. I do like that third round call because I do think it's going to be a very tiring pace, especially with a short notice Ludovic. So I do like that third round call. I can definitely see that. But for me, I like Shore. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. We do see that Shore is a big favorite, and rightfully so. He opened up as a minus 265 favorite, and he is currently minus 410. And Ludovic opened up plus 225. He's currently plus 310. I do expect that line to get wider and wider and wider as the week goes on. The fight doesn't go to decision, minus 135. The fight goes to decision, minus 105. The under 2.5 rounds is minus 120. And the over 2.5 rounds is minus 110. I'm personally picking a Shore finish. So if anything, I would lean towards that under, but with no real confidence. If anything, I kind of want to take a look at Shore inside the distance. We'll see what that line is. But yeah, I like Shore here quite a bit. I think it's a pretty terrible matchup for Ludovic here. So give me Shore to win and give me Shore to win inside the distance.
Agreed, man. I mean, it's just such a bad matchup. I mean, taking a fight on short notice is bad enough, but then there are certain types of opponents that are just a nightmare to fight on short notice, and Jack Shore is definitely one of those types of opponents. So, yeah, I like Jack Shore here. I think I might try to get some more value on him by betting him inside the distance, even though Shalinian has never been finished. Like I say, maybe what I might do is go the full unit, let's say, on Shore, and then also maybe throw a quarter unit on him in the third round because you might be able to get like 10-1 on that or something like that. And then, that'll maybe be your inside the distance part of it. But yeah, I do like Jack Shore to win this fight here.
Yeah, I like it. Nigel saying that Shore is a DK must-own, and yeah. I 100% agree. I'll have a ton of Jack Shore this week, no matter the price. All right, so we'll move on to the people's main event, the fight that everybody's talking about for this week. We have Ji-Young Kim going against Molly McCann. Kim is 31 years old, 5'7" with a 72-inch reach. Molly McCann, she is 31 years old as well, 5'4" with a 62-inch reach. So Kim's going to be a lot bigger, way bigger, 3 inches in height, and then a massive 10 inches in reach here for Kim. As far as her last few fights, Kim is 3-2 in her last 5 fights, a split decision win over Justine Kish. I went back and watched that fight today. I thought she lost. A win over Melinda Fabian by decision, a decision loss to Antonina Shevchenko, the bad Shevchenko, a knockout win over Nadia Kassem, and then a decision loss over Alexa Grasso there. As far as Molly McCann, she is 3-2 in her last 5 fights, a decision win over Priscilla Cachoeira, a decision win over Ariane Lipski, a decision win over Diana Belbita, a decision loss to Talia Santos, no shame in that, and then a decision loss to Laura Procopio, no shame in that as well. So Molly McCann is 3-2 in her last 5 fights, as is Kim. Uncle Weezy, I know you're looking forward to this fight. Who you liking here?
Oh, yeah, really looking forward to this one, man. Oh, God. Let's just get through the notes here. Kim has got a 10-inch reach advantage here, and she's 3 inches taller. So, obviously, the measurables going to Kim here. Experience advantage is also going to Kim, although it's the experience is like the advantages are almost nothing. It's literally 1.5 more years as a pro and 4 more minutes of cage time. The experience numbers are virtually identical for these two fighters. Kim's the more diverse finisher here, as she has 3 wins by sub and 2 by KO, 4 by decision, while McCann, 4 of 10 wins by KO, the other 6 by decision. Striking, McCann's got solid striking numbers thus far in the UFC. She's landing 5.15 and absorbing 4.28. So almost a 1 significant strike differential, which is pretty good. 65.18% career striking defense for McCann, combined with the fact that Kim couldn't hit water if she fell out of a boat, man. She had 34.32% accuracy. It makes this look like McCann could potentially overcome the 10-inch reach disadvantage that she has here, because Kim just misses all the time. And Molly McCann has 50% accuracy in her own right. So the fact that Kim throws more volume may be kind of leveled out by the fact that Molly McCann will probably be more accurate here. The grappling advantage is McCann's an active wrestler. She's attempted 31 takedowns in only 6 fights, getting 9 of 31, 29.03% accuracy, so not good. However, she's averaging 1.64 takedowns per 15 minutes and 0.73 sub-attempts per 15 minutes. And even though she's outshot her opponents 31-21 thus far in the UFC, she's getting out-controlled 32% to 9%. Kim has shown terrible takedown defense, though, thus far. She's only been able to successfully defend 3 out of 7 takedown attempts. So if McCann does go to the wrestling, she could easily win minutes and rounds there. Look at Kim, 42.86% takedown defense. So even though she's been in 6 fights, she's only had 7 takedowns shot against her. While Molly McCann is averaging 5 takedown attempts per fight. Nice. So this could probably be the first fight where we see Kim having to actively, defend wrestling. And because she has this 10-inch reach advantage here, if Molly doesn't like how it's going on the feet, she can just shoot in for takedowns. And Yeon Kim has been out-controlled at a 15.55% to 7.33% clip. So even though we haven't seen many of her fights take place in the grappling realm yet, 78% of Kim's fights are taking place at striking range. If Molly wants to dirty this fight up and she hates this 10-inch reach disadvantage, she could go in there and just exploit this terrible 42% takedown defense and potentially win some rounds there. So I do like Molly McCann here to have the grappling advantage. And then if we're looking at strength of schedule, I'm calling that even just from the way I looked at it. So the Kim advantages here, or what I'm seeing, is measurables and a very, very, very small experience advantage. But I think McCann's got the better striking and the grappling here. So I'm going with McCann to win this fight by decision. I just think she has more ways to win minutes here. And I just, oh God, Fire Fist. I don't know. They should call her Pillow Fist or like, she's about as exciting as watching paint dry. So I don't know, man. What are you thinking for this one?
Yeah, I was watching tape on Kim today. And I fell asleep because it was horrible. It was horrible. She's not great. She has that 10-inch reach. She doesn't use it. She does not use it at all. She throws a ton. I will give her that, but she cannot. She misses so much. I mean, I counted so many misses from Kim. Terrible accuracy. You can see it there. 34% striking accuracy. Absolutely terrible. So yes, she'll be throwing more, but I think McCann's going to be landing more there. But yeah, you mentioned the takedown aspect of this, and it actually surprised me how many takedowns Molly McCann has actually attempted in the UFC. 31. I like that a lot, especially in this matchup, because Kim has been taken down at least once in her last 3 fights. Including against a fighter in Antonina Shevchenko, who took her down 3 times, controlled her for about 5 minutes. So yeah, I think if Molly does not like how it's going on the feet, take her down, mixing the takedowns, get some control time. Kim does not have much off her back at all. She kind of just stays there. Doesn't really have a great get-up game as well. So I think Molly can, with the win minutes, get takedowns, and on the feet, I do favor Molly, 10-inch advantage or not. Because again, Kim does not use it and she misses a ton. So I like Molly McCann here. Maybe a little bit overconfident in Molly McCann here because I do really like her to win. But you take a look at the line; it's very close. We have Kim opening up as a -190 favorite for some reason, and Molly McCann opening up as a +165 dog. Now we see Molly McCann as a -107 and Kim as a -113 slight favorite here. So money is coming in on Molly McCann. I do completely agree with that. As far as the over-under, it's going to be juiced. Over 2.5 rounds is -350. Fight goes to decision is -320. The under 2.5 rounds is +275. The fight doesn't go to decision is +240. I do think this goes to decision more often than not. And I'm going to say Molly McCann does win it by decision, mixing the takedowns in outstriking Kim. The 10-inch reach advantage definitely gives you some concern, some pause on paper, but you watch the tape and she just does not use that 10 inches at all. So give me Molly McCann, and I do like her quite a bit. I don't know if I'm going to bet her. I saw her at plus money earlier today. I was really tempted. It wasn't there for long, but yeah, I was plus 105 earlier in the day. I got tempted there, but I'm going to see where the line goes. If I can get plus money on Molly McCann, I might take a shot, Weezy.
I think I'm going to get to a bet here. This was one of those ones that I saw on paper, and I just remember being completely underwhelmed by Kim. And when I saw her 50-50 against McCann, I thought, McCann's pretty good all around. Like I say, she attempts enough takedowns for you to be able to say, I don't care if she's a great wrestler. What we want to know is, can she win some minutes, therefore win a round or two just with a little bit of grappling, offensive grappling? And I think the answer to that is yes. I think what we see here is that there's always a statistically significant number in that reach advantage. When you got a reach advantage, you're going to have statistical significance in that particular statistic that'll lead you to believe a reach advantage leads to a win more times than it doesn't. However, there are some fighters that just don't use that reach advantage well. Kim is one of them, and the fact that we can see McCann winning minutes with her wrestling here leads me to believe that this striking isn't so far in Kim's favor, or maybe even in Kim's favor at all, to lead me to believe that, I think Molly McCann wins this fight more times than she doesn't. So yeah, I kind of like the line here. I'm not a huge Molly McCann fan, but I'm way less of a fan of Kim. So I could definitely see getting to a 1-unit bet on Molly McCann here on the money line. And I would probably just pick her to win by decision, because Kim's never been finished and McCann has never finished a UFC win. So maybe get a little bit of extra value there, a little bit of plus money on McCann by decision. Feels like a pretty good bet to me.
Yep, I'm with you. I like it. And we will move on to the next fight. If you all can hit the like button, that'd be much, much appreciated. Over 100 of you guys in here. Thank you for hanging out on a Sunday as always. But we have a very good fight here. This is probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite fight on the entire card. I think it's going to be very fun. Two very, very good grapplers going at it. We have Paddy Pimblett, who is 26 years old, 5'10". I'm not sure on the reach there, going against Luigi Vendramini. He is 25 years old, 5'8" with a 73-inch reach. Paddy is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Had a decision loss over Dan Narimani. Had a submission win over Alexis Savadis. A decision loss over Soren Bach. A knockout win over Decky Dalton. And a submission win over David Martinez there. And then as far as Luigi Vendramini, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. A knockout win over Adriano Andre, a knockout win over Lucas Iricho, a knockout loss in his UFC debut, where he did come up a weight class against Elizo Zaleski dos Santos. No shame in that. Came back and won by knockout against Justin Iari, and then a loss to Fares Ziam by decision in a fight where he kind of took a while to get started. But once he got started, he looked very good. But the problem was he waited way too long. And it was weird because in the Iari fight, he started like crazy right away. So I'm curious to see how he does start in this fight. Is he going to come out fast like he did in the Iari fight? Or is he going to kind of, take his time and, wait to warm up like he did in the Fares Zion fight, though? So, Uncle Weezy, what do you got for this one? Anything sticking out to you here?
Yeah, we don't have any stats on Pimblett as far as being a UFC fighter yet. So let's just kind of go through what we do know about their records and stuff. We've got Pimblett is going to be 2 inches taller. Does he have a reach advantage? I don't know, because his reach isn't on Tapology and it's not on UFC stats. I'm assuming he's going to be the bigger guy here because Vendramini is kind of a smaller lightweight. But in experience advantages here, Pimblett, 8 more pro fights, 100 more minutes of cage time, over 3 more years as a pro. He's finished 12 of his 16 pro wins, 7 by knockout, 5 by sub, so he's well-rounded. While Vendramini's got 3 more UFC-level fights, he's got over 20 more minutes in the UFC cage, and Paddy's making his UFC debut here. 100% finish rate as a pro for Luigi Vendramini, 44% by sub, 56% by knockout. So both of these guys are diverse finishers. Vendramini, great grappler. Pimblett, great grappler. In terms of striking numbers in the UFC, Vendramini shown good power in a very limited sample size, landing a knockdown on 1.96% of his significant strikes landed. He's got 65.64% striking defense in a small sample size. And then, strength of schedule advantages here. I'm giving Vendramini a slight edge due to the fact that he has 3 UFC fights and Pimblett has 0. But in my opinion, it's just too close to call there. I'm giving Pimblett the measurables and the experience advantage here. And I'm giving Vendramini the striking advantage and maybe a little bit of a strength of schedule advantage. But what I need from you, dude, is to tell me from what you've seen from Paddy and Luigi in terms of the striking, in terms of the grappling, because I can give you the stats, but I have not seen any tape on Paddy yet. He's just one of these guys that I've missed. I haven't seen any of his fights. So you're going to have to let me know who's got the striking edge here and who's got the grappling edge here.
Yeah, that's the tough part about this fight. Like, it's going to come down to who is the better grappler. And I guess what the big thing that stuck out to me was going to be the difference in the wrestling. One guy is a very good wrestler in Paddy Pimblett, and one guy is just not. Luigi Vendramini has attempted 12 takedowns in the UFC. He's only gotten one of them. So the wrestling is not there, but I will say the grappling for Luigi is definitely there. A legit BJJ black belt, and as is Paddy Pimblett. So I'm curious to see who's going to get the better of the grappling exchanges, but what it comes down to for me is I think Paddy Pimblett's going to be the one that gets the takedowns. He's going to be the one on top. So at that point, I'm probably going to pick him. But, the grappling exchanges are going to be very, very fun to watch. Both these guys are phenomenal grapplers. Cannot wait to see it. Both guys are very, very dangerous on the mat as well. So, the wrestling, I think, that's probably the biggest edge I see for in this fight. For Paddy, I think the striking, I'm with you. I do favor Luigi as well. I'm not extremely impressed with the striking, but he does come forward. He does throw very hard. But again, I think Paddy, he goes to his bread and butter a lot of times. Very good wrestler, very good grappler. I think the wrestling is going to be different in this fight for sure. I don't love the line. We see that Paddy opened up as, if I can find it, there it is. So he opened up as a minus 135 favorite. He's currently minus 134. Luigi Vendramini opened up plus 115, currently plus 140. I think he'd be even closer than that, Uncle Weezy. It's such a close fight because, Luigi's no slouch on the mat by any means. Luigi's grappling is next level. So I do think that Paddy's going to really have to mind his P's and Q's on the mat. But with that said, Paddy's a beast grappler himself. Both guys are legit BJJ black belts. So I'll pick Paddy Pimblett slightly just because of the wrestling advantage. I think that's probably the biggest advantage that I've seen in the wrestling. One guy's a really good wrestler. One guy is not. I just don't think Luigi, is the best wrestler at all. Doesn't really seem really physically strong. But when it does get to the mat, he's very good. So I'll take Paddy Pimblett. I'm not going to be betting this one. Even like the over-unders, we have the under at 2.5 rounds, minus 150. The over at plus 120. No strong lean there. I'd be kind of shocked if either guy got submitted. Both guys are legit BJJ black belts. Paddy has been submitted before, but this was back in like 2013. So I'll take Paddy to win by decision, mixing in the takedowns, getting some top control. But man, I don't know who the better grappler is. Both guys' grappling is absolutely legit.
Yeah, and Vendramini's pretty damn explosive in his own right. If there's one side that I'm leaning in this one, it'll be violence because we got Vendramini 9 out of 9 wins inside the distance. Pimblett 12 out of 16 wins inside the distance. Add that up. You got 21 of these guys' 25 career wins coming inside the distance. That's like well over 85% finishing rate in these guys' combined wins. And even in the losses, 5 combined losses, 2 of them inside the distance. So that's 40%. So maybe that minus 150 is kind of where the under 2.5 should be here. But it just seems to me like Vendramini, 10 out of his 11 fights have finished inside the distance. He's a very killer be killed fighter. Add that to the fact that Paddy might have some nerves coming under the bright lights of the UFC for the first time, fighting outside of his home country. I could see this fight finishing inside the distance. I might be taking a look at an under 2.5 bet here.
Yep, don't hate that. Yeah, the only problem for me with that is, both guys are very good grappling. I kind of think it kind of maybe cancels each other out. But yeah, you're right. If Luigi is able to keep this on the feet, maybe land a big shot, and maybe Luigi can put him out there. So, yep, I do personally like Paddy, but probably not going to put any money on it, to be honest. So a fight where I just kind of want to sit back and watch this one. I think it's going to be phenomenal. All right, we'll move on to the next fight here. Oh, my goodness. Khalil Rountree, who is dead to me after not knocking out Marcin Prachnio like everybody thought he would. And he's back. He's back and going against Modestas Bukauskas, who is 27 years old, 6'3", with a 78-inch reach. Going against Rountree, who is 31 years old, 6'1", 76-inch reach. And so Rountree's going to be 4 years older. He's going to have a 2-inch height disadvantage and a 2-inch reach disadvantage. The problem with Khalil Rountree is, you don't know which Khalil Rountree is going to show up. Sometimes he shows up and sometimes he doesn't. If he shows up, there's no doubt in my mind that he can go out there and knock out a Bukauskas who's very hittable, who in my opinion is pretty chinny. And I think Khalil has the power to knock this guy out. On the flip side, if he does not show up, and kind of like the Prochnio fight where he didn't really let his hands go, we can see that Rountree as well. So for me, this is a total pass, man. Like, you can't trust Khalil Rountree. You don't know if he's going to show up or if he's not. I think the best version of Khalil Rountree goes out here and knocks out Bukauskas in the first round. It's just, I don't know if we get him. As far as the last few fights, Rountree is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. A knockout win over Gohan Saki, a knockout loss against Johnny Walker, decision win over Eric Anders in a fight where he knocked him down 4 times, a knockout loss over Ian Kudalaba, and then a decision loss over Marcin Prochnio. He was a big favorite in that fight, lost it. As far as Modestas Bukauskas, he did make his UFC debut against Andreas Michailidis in a very weird stoppage where it looked like he elbowed Michailidis to the back of the head a couple times, and then Michailidis fell out of the cage almost, and they stopped the fight after that. But he was, clearly losing up until that point, was getting outlanded. I think it was outlanded 23-17 in that first round, but ended up getting the knockout win there. And then he got knocked out by Jimmy Crute in the first round, a brutal knockout, got knocked down twice in that fight. And then it comes back and then loses a split decision over against Mikhail Olazechuk in a fight where I think I bet Olazechuk, but I kind of thought that Bukauskas did enough to win that fight. He outlanded him in 2 of the 3 rounds there. So, yeah, interesting fight. It's a tough fight to call, Weezy, because you don't know if Rountree is going to show up. If he does show up, I do think he starts as Bukauskas, but I lost all trust for Rountree after knocking out Marcin Prochnio in his last fight.
Yeah, and I agree with you with what you said about the Bukauskas-Olexejczyk fight. I had a bet on Olexejczyk in that fight, and boy, I thought he lost it. That was a little bit of a gift there for him to get that decision. And I would say that Khalil Rountree is dead to me, and he is dead to me, but it would be mathematically impossible for any mixed martial artist to be more dead to me than Abdul Razak Al Hassan. But Khalil Rountree is Abdul Razak Al Hassan Jr.
Yes.
In that if you bet on him, he's going to fucking lose. If you bet against him, he's going to look like the best kickboxer on the planet Earth. I'm not betting this fight. I won't do it. Nobody can make me do it. I am my own man, and I won't fucking do it. I'm creating a list. The list has one name on it right now, and that name is Abdul Razak Al Hassan, and it may be the only name that's made my list. And look, shout out Abdul Razak Al Hassan, man. He's made a fuck out of me for 4 consecutive fights. I cannot get his fights any more wrong, but you got to hand it to the guy. 3 consecutive losses. I make D. Sharico my ass shaving of the week, and he gets knocked out in the first 30 seconds, ducks into an absolutely explosive head kick. Welcome back, Abdul Razak Al Hassan. You had a really bad run of luck. 3 horrible fights. Every time I had money on you, you performed pathetically. And then when my money is against you, you perform like an absolute champion. But welcome back, Abdul Razak Al Hassan. But I had to go off on that little tirade there, Brady, because this is another guy who's just a super high variance fighter in Rountree. I can't get a read on him. If you guys out there you have a good read on him, you do what you need to do. But I'll just tell. Sorry, I accidentally just muted myself there. The notes that I have on this fight for people who do want to gamble on this fight, the measurables advantages here are for Bukauskas. He's 4 years younger. He's 2 inches taller. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage. As far as experience goes, Bukauskas has got 1 more pro fight. He's got 15 more minutes of cage time. He's got a 91% career finish rate, does Bukauskas. 10 of 11 pro wins inside the distance, 8 of them by knockout, 2 of them by submission. 3 of 5 of Rountree's career losses are inside the distance, 2 by knockout, 1 by sub. So definitely could be an inside the distance path here for Bukauskas. Now, Rountree, he's got 7 more UFC level fights than Modestas does. He's got over 50 more minutes in the UFC cage. More than 2/3 of Khalil's pro career has been at the UFC level, while for Modestas, it's been about 20% of his career that's been at the UFC level. One more year as a pro fighter for Rountree. 63% of Khalil's 8 wins have been by knockout. That's 5 of them, and Bukauskas has been finished in 3 out of his 4 pro losses, twice by knockout, 1 by sub. Those experience numbers are definitely leaning me towards a violence bet for this fight. Striking advantages. Bukauskas has great footwork and movement in the striking realm. He can effectively fight off of his back foot, which he did for the entire Bukauskas fight, and he did it very well. He uses his length and conditioning to circle around the cage. He has the conditioning to do it all day long. He's fought 5-round fights. Conditioning is one of Bukauskas's best weapons. He can frustrate his opinions who have a hard time, or he can frustrate his opponents who have a hard time cutting him off because he's constantly moving and circling, because his footwork is good and because his conditioning is good. He's awfully hard to catch. He throws 10.58 significant strikes a minute in addition to that. So, and his opponents have only thrown 8.72. So he uses that conditioning in more ways than one in order to win fights, or at least try to win minutes and rounds. And then it's up to the judges. But Rountree has legit power numbers. He's landing a knockdown on 3.43% of the significant strikes that he lands. Those are elite power numbers. He's averaging 1.58 knockdowns per 15 minutes, and Bukauskas has definitely been chinny as he is being knocked down on over 2% of the significant strikes that he's absorbing. So that's a little bit more than 1 out of 50 significant strikes that Bukauskas is absorbing. He's getting knocked down on. And that's averaging out to 1.36 knockdowns allowed per 15 minutes. It's definitely a path for Rountree to land a big fight-changing or fight-ending shot here. In 13 combined fights, these two have 1 total takedown attempt. So I hope that we don't have to talk about the grappling in this fight, nor will I, because this should, for all practical purposes, spend 100% of the time on the feet. Strength of schedule, Khalil's fought the tougher competition overall due to the fact he spent much higher percentage of his career at the UFC level. However, Modestas was a champion in Cage Warriors, so he has 5-round experience and has been in big fights. I don't see a big strength of schedule here, advantage here either way. Bukauskas, measurables advantage, Rountree, experience advantage. Who's got the better striking? You know, do you like the minute winner in Bukauskas, who has great footwork, great movement, great volume, and that, you know, both of these guys aren't very accurate, and both of these guys don't have great striking defense? Or do you like the big play potential of Khalil Rountree with those big fight-ending shots that he can land? You know, I guess it just depends on stylistically who you think might be more likely to win minutes. And I think that might be Bukauskas with the movement and the volume and just kind of sniping Rountree from a distance and kind of frustrating Rountree. So I haven't seen Khalil Rountree move particularly well in the UFC, and that was absolutely evidenced by him standing like a tree right in front of Marcin Prachnio and getting picked apart for 3 consecutive rounds. I'm going to pick the minute winner, Bukauskas, here. The big play potential for Rountree is intriguing, but there's no fucking way I'm betting this fight, dude. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm thinking pass for sure. I'm actually going to pick Rountree to get the knockout win here. He just has so much power. I mean, you take a look at his wins in the UFC, mostly knockouts. He had a knockout win, knockdown, 8 knockdowns in the UFC. This guy has so much power. And he would have finished Eric Anders if Eric Anders had, if he didn't have like a crazy steel chin. I know Eric Anders is very tough there, but yeah, knocked him down 4 times in that fight. Like if we get the Khalil Rountree that fought Eric Anders, if that guy shows up, he is going to wipe the floor with Modestas Bukauskas, who is very hittable and who's very chinny as well. The problem is we could be getting the Khalil Rountree that showed up against Marcin Prachnio that just stands there and looks at him for 3 rounds. So for me, I'm going to take Khalil Rountree to win by knockout. I'll also be taking a look at the prop if it's decent, but for the most part, I'm not too interested in betting this fight. We have a Modestas Bukauskas opening up plus 130 dog. He's now minus 155. And then Rountree opening up minus 150. He is now plus 135. And then as far as the over-under, they did set at 1.5 rounds. The under 1.5 rounds is -105, and the over 1.5 rounds is -125. I do think this fight does finish one way or another, but for me, I'm personally leaning a Khalil Rountree round 1 knockout. But hard to be invested in it because if I did bet it, it would probably be the one that showed up against Proc, the one that just stands there. If I don't bet it, it's going to be the one that showed up against Anders and gets 4 knockdowns, or Gohan Saki knocked him out, knocked out Paul Craig as well. He has a ton of power. So I'll take him for the knockout power there. But I agree with you that Modestas Bukauskas is going to be winning the minutes of this fight. So yeah, not a bad pick there as well.
Yeah, and if we look at the 9 combined losses of these two guys, we see 3 of them inside the distance for Rountree, 3 of them for Bukauskas. So that's 2/3 of the time when these guys lose fights, they finish inside the distance. So maybe anything, -180 or better, fight doesn't go to decision, might be a decent betting line. But like I say, man, I cannot bet on a Khalil Rountree fight.
Yep, 100% agree there. So we will move on to a fight that I probably won't be betting as well, but should be a good fight. We have Alex Morono going against David Zawada. Alex Morono is somebody that's a very exciting fighter, somebody that I'm definitely a fan of, and David Zawada is somebody that definitely does bring exciting fights as well. So these two match up against each other. I think it's going to be a good fight. It's going to be a very good fight. We have Alex Morono, who is 31 years old, 5'11", with a 72-inch reach, going against David Zawada, who is 31 years old, 6 foot, with a 75-inch reach. So Morono's going to be 1 inch disadvantage there for height in Morono, and then 1 inch, 3 inches in reach disadvantage there for Morono as well. As far as their last couple fights, Morono is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Decision win over Max Griffin, a knockout loss to Chaos Williams in like the first 30 seconds of that fight, a decision win over Reese McKee, a decision loss to Anthony Pettis, and then a knockout loss recently to Donald Cerrone. As far as David Zawada, 2-3 in his last 5 fights, a submission win over Michael Mikulski, a decision loss to Danny Roberts, a knockout loss to the Leech, and then a submission win over Abubakar Nurmagomedov, and then a decision loss over Ramazan Amif. So yeah, good fight here, Uncle Weezy. What's sticking out to you on this one?
Yeah, let's go into the notes here, man. This should be a good one. I like both of these guys. We see Zawada with a little bit of a measurables advantage in this one. He's 1 inch taller. He's got a 3-inch reach advantage, and both of these guys are the same age. In terms of experience, we got Morono with 4 more pro fights, and he's got 9 more UFC fights. Almost 100 more minutes in the UFC cage. 64% of Alex's 19 pro wins came inside the distance, 6 by knockout, 6 by submission. So he's very well-rounded. And I believe he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. And Zawada has been finishing 3 out of his 6 pro losses, once by submission, twice by KO. So there could be an inside the distance path here for Alex Morono. And then if we look at Zawada, he's got an 89% finish rate in his career. 15 out of his 17 wins have come inside the distance, 11 by knockout, 4 by submission. And Alex has been knocked out in 2 out of his 7 pro losses. So David could land a big shot as well. If we look at striking here, Morono has really nice striking numbers over a 13-fight sample size here in the UFC. He's landing 5.05 significant strikes a minute, but only absorbing 3.69. He's got decent power for a welterweight as well. He's got 3 career UFC knockdowns. That's 0.42% knockdowns per total significant strikes landed, and 0.32 knockdowns per 15 minutes. And Zawada's been knocked down on 0.52% of the significant strikes that he's absorbed. So slightly better striking accuracy and defensive numbers than Zawada for Morono over his UFC career. Is, Morono's 42.83% striking accuracy and Zawada's 40.75. And then you see the striking defense also about 2% better for Morono, 56% to 54%. And Zawada's shown decent power in his own right. He's landing a knockdown on 0.66% of the significant strikes that he's landed. And Morono's been knocked down 2 times in 520 significant strikes that he's absorbed. So Zawada could land a big shot. If we talk about grappling, both these guys seem to prefer to strike. I mean, they both have got submission wins on their record. In particular, Zawada finished Abubakar Nurmagomedov with a triangle choke in the first round. But if we look at their takedown numbers, we see Zawada 10 takedown attempts in 4 fights, and Morono 16 takedown attempts in 13 fights. Zawada only 12% control time. Morono only 8% control time. Both these guys are getting out-controlled by their opponents. It's worse for Zawada. Zawada's getting out-controlled 35% to 12%, while Morono is getting out-controlled about 15% to 8%. So both these guys are getting out-controlled, but neither one of them are trying a lot of takedowns or accruing a lot of control time. So I think if you want to handicap this fight, you want to kind of look at who you think is going to get the striking advantage. When we look at striking, the strength of schedule numbers here, Morano's fought a higher percentage of his career at the UFC level, and he's fought the more experienced UFC competition. However, David Zawada has fought the more UFC competition with the better win-loss ratio. So if I were to kind of pick the advantages here, I'd say Morono has the experience advantage. He has the striking advantage as far as the UFC numbers go, and the strength of schedule advantage. But, they're pretty slim advantages in all three categories. And then Zawada, a measurables advantage. I'm going to go with Morono by decision, but I think it's fairly close. Which way are you leaning here?
Yeah, I'm leaning Morono as well, probably by decision. Yeah, I like Morono here. I agree with you. He's going to have the striking advantage. I like how high volume Morono is as well. Lands 5.05 significant strikes per minute. I love that. David Zawada, not the most skilled fighter, but he does, fight for your money. If you do want to back him here, he's very dangerous anywhere the fight goes. He has power. I've seen him knock down the leech. He also is very dangerous, like you mentioned, off his back, where he got that sub against Abubakar Nurmagomedov. He's very dangerous anywhere the fight goes. So I think, Morono's really got to mind his P's and Q's wherever this fight does go. But, skill for skill, I do think Morono is the better fighter. But, Zawada is very opportunistic, very dangerous. So I think if there's a finish, it's more so going to be coming from the Zawada side. But I'm with you that I think Morono is going to outstrike him. Morono is a black belt in BJJ as well, for what it's worth. So, stay safe on top if it does get there, and just mind your P's and Q's, because Zawada is very, very dangerous. But yeah, I think for the most part, it's going to be striking, and I do think he's going to outstrike him to a decision here. Just mind your P's and Q's. Don't get finished, because Zawada is very dangerous. But outside of that, I think he does get it done. We'll take a look at the line here. And Morono opened up minus 180. He is now minus 170. And David Zawada opened up plus 155, and he's currently plus 145. Not much interest there for me in terms of like a money line bet. Even like the over-under, I'm not overly crazy about. We have the under 2.5 rounds at plus money, plus 130. And then the over 2.5 rounds, minus 160. Fight doesn't go to decision, plus money, plus 115. And then the fight goes to decision, minus 155. No really strong lean. I'm kind of thinking Morono by decision. But, there could be a finish in this fight just with the style of both guys and how they fight. Could happen, but I'm personally going to take Morono to win by decision here.
Yeah, I'm leaning Morono too. Looked great against Cerrone in that last fight. His last two fights are against Cerrone and Pettis, two really good strikers, and so he's used to handling high-level strikers, and while his takedown defense isn't good, nobody's really controlling him, so I don't really see Zawada getting to him that way. It's a tough fight to call, man, but I'm going to lean Morono here, but I don't see myself having any action on this particular fight.
Yep, I am with you. So I know you're going to have some action on this next fight, Weezy. We have Ariane Lipski going against Mandy Böhm, I believe that's how you pronounce it. Lipski is 27 years old, 5'6" with a 67-inch reach. Mandy Böhm is 32 years old, 5'6", 70-inch reach. So Mandy Böhm was supposed to fight, I believe, Tala Santos. That would have been a great fight, but Santos got matched up with Roxanne Modafferi in about a month. So Lipski is stepping in on short-ish notice here. I don't know the exact date where it did get announced, but short notice nonetheless. And, Mandy Böhm, she is 32 years old, 5'6", 70-inch reach. I already talked about that. Pretty similar here, age. Mandy Böhm is going to be 5 years older, same height, and then 3 inches of reach for Mandy Böhm there. So last couple fights here, Ariane Lipski is 2-3 in her last 5 fights. Molly McCann decision loss. Isabel De Paula decision win. Luana Carolina submission win. Knockout loss to Anthony Shevchenko, and then knockout loss to Montana De La Rosa. Mandy Böhm, she is 5-0 in her last 5 fights. Not really anything sticks out in terms of level of competition thus far for her, though. So it's going to be a big step in competition for Mandy Böhm. It's going to be her UFC debut. And, It's a very interesting fight because I see why it is a pick 'em. It's -110 each way, just about, because Ariane Lipski is going to have a pretty massive striking advantage, and Böhm's going to have a pretty massive advantage on the mat. So, Uncle Weezy, what are you looking for in this one?
Let's just get into the numbers here, and then we can kind of like handicap the fight. Lipski's 5 years younger. Böhm's going to have the 3-inch reach advantage here. Lipski, big experience advantage. 12 more professional fights, 120 more minutes of pro cage time, 1 more year as a pro, 6 more UFC fights while Böhm's making her UFC debut, and 65 more minutes of cage time. 69% of Lipski's pro wins are inside the distance, 6 by knockout, 3 by submission. Böhm's a solid equal opportunity finisher, 2 knockouts, 2 submissions, and 3 decisions. So she's well-rounded. She can go the distance as well. Lipski's got really good power for a straw weight. She's landing a knockdown on 0.55% of the significant strikes that she lands, which is very high for the women's strawweight division. She's got a solid Muay Thai background, while Böhm's going to have the grappling advantage here. And then if we look at the strength of schedule, Lipski's got a third of her career at the UFC level, while this is Böhm's debut. Lipski advantages are experience and striking, while the grappling advantage goes to Böhm.
Uncle Weezy.
Yo.
The fight's been canceled.
Are you kidding?
Nope.
Well, let's move on, because I didn't know shit about Mandy Böhm anyway, man.
Oh, which sucks, because I was going to talk about like the under 2.5 rounds, and this one is +210. So we'll save it. We'll save it. The fight's rebooked to September 18th.
September 18th. I wonder what happened.
Yeah, I don't know, but
it could have been a COVID thing or something like that. But yeah, all right. Well, then let's move on, because dude, this next fight's going to be bomb, dude. This one's going to be a good one, dude.
Yes, sir. Here we go. Okay, Tom Aspinall going against Sergey Spivak. We have Aspinall, who is 28 years old, 6'5", with a 78-inch reach. Sergey Spivak, 26 years old, 6'3", 78-inch reach as well. We'll take a look at the last few fights. Sergey Spivak is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. A submission win over Tai Tuivasa, decision loss to Marcin Tybura, a decision win over Carlos Felipe, and then a knockout win over Jared Vanderaa, and a decision win over Alexia Oleinik. Tom Aspinall is 5-0 in his last 5 fights, made his UFC debut against Jake Collier, which was the easiest money I've ever made. I think I bet Tom Aspinall inside the distance at like -120 against Jake Collier there, knocked him out in a couple minutes there. And then he did knock out as well Alan Badeau, and then got a submission win over Andrei Arlovsky. So, yeah, I mean, Aspinall, a very, very prospect that I'm very, very high on. I'm really looking forward to see what he's going to do in the heavyweight division. Sergey Spivak, a fighter I feel a little bit underrated guy, really well-rounded guy. The striking's coming along, but, solid wrestler, solid grappler as well. So, yeah, really looking forward to this fight. And what's sticking out to you on this one, Uncle Weezy?
Well, first of all, the thing we just got to talk about is this is very short notice for Spivak here. Didn't he just get put into this fight yesterday?
It's like really short notice, right? Like either yesterday or a couple days ago.
Because I know I had just as recently as this morning, this spreadsheet had Aspinall fighting
Pavlovich, yeah.
Yeah, Pavlovich. So I think that he just got put into this last night. So this will be 8 days notice here for Sergey Spivak, and he's fighting a stud like Aspinall. But we just got to start off just saying that's going to be a huge ask. But let's get into the advantages here. Aspinall, 2 inches taller. Spivak, 2 years younger. Wow, both these guys. Look at these guys are babies for the heavyweight division, man. Spivak 26, Aspinall 28. The experience advantage here is going to go to Spivak with 3 more professional fights. He's got 25 more minutes of cage time. He's got 3 more UFC fights, over 50 more minutes of UFC cage time than Aspinall, an 84% finish rate as a pro for Spivak, 11 of 13 pro wins coming inside the distance, 6 submissions, 5 KOs. So he's equal opportunity in the ways that he's finishing people. And Aspinall has been subbed once. Aspinall has a 100% finish rate as a pro, 8 by knockout, 2 by submission. If we look at the striking numbers, Aspinall's numbers are just, they jump off the page at you. Everything is spectacular about the numbers that he's put up in the UFC cage thus far. 3-fight sample size, landing 7.43 significant strikes a minute, and he's absorbing less than half of that at 3.06. He's got a 66% striking accuracy, which is crazy. He's landing a knockdown on 1.59% of the significant strikes that he's landing. That's 1.77 knockdowns per 15 minutes. And Spivak's been knocked down on 0.51% of the significant strikes that he's absorbed. Aspinall has a fantastic, almost 66% striking defense thus far. While Spivak, he's got decent boxing in his own right. He throws crisp, straight punches down the pipe, nice ratios, landing 3.85 significant strikes a minute and only absorbing 3.1. So Spivak's all right on the feet, but I would think that Aspinall is going to be better on the feet here. Now, if we talk about grappling, I believe that Aspinall is a BJJ black belt. Am I wrong about that?
You're right. You're right about it.
Yeah, I thought so. He doesn't use it very much. I mean, we see that Aspinall's got 2 of his wins by submission, 8 by knockout. So the guy is clearly well-rounded. He just seems to be one of those dudes who prefers to use his hands, but he keeps the jiu-jitsu in his back pocket, and we saw him quickly submit Arlovsky when he got him to the ground. And he's two on his takedowns, Aspinall, in the UFC. He's averaging 3.54 takedowns per 15 minutes, but he's only had 8 minutes of cage time over 3 wins. So this guy's average fight time in the UFC is 2.83 minutes. You know, we just got to remember it's a very small sample size, but the numbers still jump off the page. Yeah, very dominant numbers in a small sample size. 33.2% control time for not even 1 second of control time yielded. While Spivak's got excellent wrestling for the heavyweight division. Top control, ground and pound. 12 of his 19 UFC takedown attempts have been successful. That's 63.16%. He's averaging 2.83 takedowns per 15 minutes and 35.46% control time in his own right, while only yielding 19% control time against. He's comfortable in the grappling exchanges, out-controlling his opponents at a 2-to-1 ratio. While strength of schedule, I'm leaning Spivak here because higher percentages of his career has been at the UFC level, and he's fought the tougher names, guys like Alexei Oleinik, Marcin Tybura, Tai Tuivasa, Walt Harris, Carlos Felipe. So I would say that the advantages for Aspinall are going to be in the measurables and the striking, while for Spivak, it's going to be the experience, the grappling, and the strength of schedule. I'm going to pick Aspinall by decision, but I can't wait for this fight. I'm definitely going to need to watch a bunch of tape on both of these guys. I am a big fan of Sergey Spivak. There are very few heavyweights who are good wrestlers right now in the UFC, and we've seen the ones that are very successful. Guys like Romanov and Espino and Blades and Tybura, guys with good grappling and good wrestling are winning a ton of fights because heavyweight is a division that lacks good grapplers. And here we got 2 more now in guys like Spivak, who's won with his ground and pound against Tuivasa. He beat Carlos Felipe with his ground and pound. He beat Vandera with the ground and pound. So, I mean, this guy's got a serious top game. And Aspinall has been submitted before, which I find interesting. So, you know, it's really kind of hard. It depends on which way you think this fight is going to go. If Spivak uses this wrestling, we have not seen Tom Aspinall even face a takedown attempt thus far in the UFC in 3 fights. So I think it's a different type of opponent. The opponent that he was preparing for in Pavlovich is not a grappler.
Nope.
He's a striker. So this could potentially be the kind of opponent change that is disadvantageous for Aspinall. I'm interested to see which way you're leaning here. I'm leaning Aspinall because I like the fact that Sergey Spivak has to take this fight on short notice, and it's a huge ask against somebody as talented and as big as Aspinall and as well-rounded. But I don't think Spivak is out of this by any stretch of the imagination. I think he can cause a lot of problems here for Aspinall. How are you feeling?
Yeah, man, I agree. I mean, you take a look at the line to start it off, and Aspinall is a pretty big favorite. Opened up minus 300, currently minus 277. I disagree with that line because I went back and watched tape on Aspinall. I wanted to see, you know, how is this guy's takedown defense? We have not seen it yet thus far in the UFC, like you mentioned. And man, he got taken down a lot, like way too much for my liking. And remind you that it was like 4 or 5 years ago, but still, he was getting taken down like pretty easily at times. I saw him get reversed as well, and just not the best look. But again, you know, that was a while ago. I know he's been making improvements, all that good stuff, but still not something you want to see when you're considering laying, you know, minus 300 on the guy, right? So I did not like to see that, and I still do have some question marks about how's his takedown defense right now, because we haven't got to see it. And then also another question mark I have about Aspinall is prior to the Andre Arlovski win, he had not won a fight. I don't believe. No, he has not. He has not won a fight outside of the first round, outside of that Andre Arlovski win. So that was his very first win that was outside of the first round. So I was kind of thinking, what happens if this fight does get extended? Because we did see Tom Aspinall look like he was slowing down a little bit in the Arlovski fight, but he was able to get the sub eventually. But, what happens if Sergey Spivak's able to take him down early, kind of wear on him, and get this fight extended? So, yeah, minus 300 just seems like way off to me, Weezy. I don't know if I like that line. But the reason why I do like Aspinall in this fight, and the reason why I will pick him, is going to be the short notice aspect of this fight. We talk about it a ton. Offensive wrestling is going to be very tiring, and Sergey Spivak is going to have to wrestle in this fight and wrestle a ton to win this fight as well. And what really stuck out to me was in the Alexei Oleinik fight, I never thought I'd see it, but it looked like Alexei Oleinik was the fresher guy in the third round compared to Sergey Spivak. Spivak was extremely tired, so I can only imagine how tired he's going to be trying to take down a big guy in Aspinall for 3 rounds. So, yeah, I do like Aspinall myself. Some question marks about the takedown defense, some question marks about the gas tank, but the short notice aspect is really making me lean towards the Aspinall side. But should it be minus 300? Probably not, man. I just completely disagree with that line. But as far as a straight pick, I will pick him there. I think the over-under is set at 1.5 rounds. And it's actually juiced to the under big time, minus 175 for the under 1.5 rounds. And, probably rightfully so. I do think this fight has a very good chance of finishing early. But if Spivak can take him down, grind him out, get this extended, I'm curious to see how Aspinall does look in a second round or in a third round. So I'll pick Aspinall, but I think the minus 280 is just a little bit wide there.
The bets that I would be making here are the over 1.5 at plus money. And I would bet the Spivak money line, because I agree. It's just too wide. We haven't seen enough of Tom Aspinall. It's worrisome when you see these guys that are just getting out of there in 3 minutes per fight. Yeah. They go out there and they just starch dudes. You don't know what they look like in the second round. You don't know what they look like in the third round. And a guy like Spivak has got an interesting skill set for this division. We don't know how Aspinall will deal with a good wrestler like Spivak. And frankly, I'm just a big fan of well-rounded heavyweights. So I think the value here is definitely on Spivak money line. I think the value is on the over 1.5, as we have seen Spivak get knocked out by Walt Harris, and that is a dude that has elite top 5 power, not just in the heavyweight division, but in the entire UFC. In terms of his striking metrics that I keep, I mean, we're talking about almost a 4% significant knockdowns per total significant strikes landed for a guy like Harris. So those are the kind of dudes that are knocking out Spivak. I don't know if Aspinall is there yet. And if Spivak is successful with the wrestling, I could see this fight easily going over 1.5, and then you'll get plus money. But boy, betting the over in a heavyweight fight, even if you cash the ticket, it kind of takes some months off your life, doesn't it?
It definitely does. I hate
it's so hard to watch, man.
It is. I can't even watch fights that I have the over on. It's just so hard to watch. You're just sitting there like, oh, don't throw anything, don't do anything. Just look at each other for.
You're rooting for the opposite of what will ever happen in an MMA fight. It's like no touching, don't touch each other, just stay. It's the opposite of what a fight is. So yeah, it's hard, but I see there being value there, man. Spivak's fights don't often end in under a round and a half. Aspinall's do, but this isn't Alan Badeau. This is not Jake Collier, and this is not the corpse of Andre Arlovski at like 44 years old or wherever he is. So, yeah, this is a different opponent. It's a young 26-year-old man who is really rising straight out of Moldova. Yeah, I like Spivak here. I think the value's there.
Can't disagree there, man. I think the value is on Spivak as well. If it wasn't on short notice, I definitely give Spivak more of a look, though. It's just the short notice aspect of things is what I really don't like from the Spivak side. But yeah, it could very well play out closer than the line does indicate at about minus 300. All right, so we'll get into the main event now. Before we do so, if you all can hit the like button, that'd be much, much appreciated. Also, subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio so you do not miss out on all the other content the guys do throughout the week. Me, Uncle Weezy, and a couple other guys will be going live on Tuesday for the DraftKings show, so check us out there. Always a fun time doing that. And yeah, we have the main event here, Brunson versus Till. Me and Uncle Weezy are going to be doing a main event deep dive on my channel, DFS by the Numbers, that will be posted tomorrow morning. So check that out as well. We're going to go a lot more into detail, but we'll kind of give the simplified version here where we have Derek Brunson versus Darren Till, which should be a very fun fight. Brunson, he is 37 years old, 6'1", 77-inch reach. Darren Till, 28 years old, 6 foot, 74-inch reach. Brunson's going to be 9 years older, and he's going to have a 1-inch height advantage, and he's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage as well. Darren Till, in his last 5 fights, he is 2-3, a decision win over Stephen Thompson, a submission loss to Tyron Woodley, a knockout loss to Jorge Masvidal. I will never forget that fight because that was my biggest win ever in DFS. I had a takedown in 3 different contests, my single, the $3 20 max, and then the $1 150 max as well. My biggest win ever. We'll never forget that day. Thank you, Masvidal, for knocking out Darren Till. But yeah, Darren Till was a pretty big favorite in that fight as well. And then won a decision over Kelvin Gastelum, and then lost a decision to Robert Whittaker. No shame in really any of those losses, to be honest. And then Derek Brunson, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Knockout loss to Israel Adesanya, a decision win over Elias Theodorou, a decision win over Ian Heinisch, a knockout win over Edmund Shabazian, is a pretty big dog there. And then just recently a decision win over Kevin Holland. So what you can kind of see right away is that, Darren Till is fighting, the much better guys, whereas, Brunson's fighting guys like Elias Theodorou, Ian Heinisch. He did fight Israel Adesanya, got knocked out right away, but, as of late, Darren Till's been fighting the much, much better competition. So, Uncle Weezy, very interesting fight here. We have kind of a wrestler versus a striker. Curious to see if anything stuck out to you on this one.
Yeah, this is the only fight that I didn't get to notes on, but we can take a look at the measurables and see that Brunson is going to be the slightly bigger guy, an inch taller, 3 inches of reach advantage, but Till just that 9-year age difference, much younger here. Brunson, the more experienced mixed martial artist, 7 more pro fights, about 3 more years as a pro. He's got 8 more fights at the UFC level, so about almost like 63% of his career is fought at the highest level, while for Till it's just under 50%. So both of these guys have been fighting at the highest level for a very long time. But yeah, Brunson, much more experience at the UFC and overall. If we look at how these guys finish fights, both of these guys are knockout artists. 69% finish rate for Brunson, 55% by knockout, 14% by sub, and a 67% finish rate for Till. So that's 12 of his 18 wins coming inside the distance, 56% by knockout, 11% by sub. When Brunson gets finished, he's getting finished. 5 out of his 7 pro losses have been inside the distance by knockout. So definitely potentially a path to victory via knockout for Darren Till. And then if we look at Till, 2 out of his 3 pro losses have come inside the distance. So you get the impression just by looking at the numbers at first glance that with this being a 5-round fight, with one of the guys potentially having a very wrestling heavy game plan, that I could definitely see this fight finishing inside the distance. If we look at the striking numbers, Darren Till might be the lowest volume striker in the entire UFC. He's without question the lowest volume striker in the welterweight division. An absolutely pathetic 4.92 significant strikes per minute. He's about as low volume as it gets, and his opponents are throwing 7.26 significant strikes per minute. So we're just the optics of a fight that Darren Till is standing up in are going to show Darren Till standing at range in that karate stance, not throwing anything. So it's kind of really hard to handicap a Till fight because he's got to land a big shot. Because if he doesn't land a big shot, the optics are very similar to how they are for a guy like Sam Alvey that doesn't really throw much and kind of just stays on his back foot waiting to counter. That was a great point that Luke brought up on the DraftKings show last week, was that, the optics of what of what Alvey does in the cage, can lead him to lose decisions that he probably deserves to win, simply because you just can't be backing up the entire time waiting for your opponent. And so, like I say, man, it worries me betting on a guy like Darren Till, because the guy literally does not throw any volume. I mean, here's a guy who spent 80% of his fights striking at range and is somehow only managing to land 2.27 significant strikes a minute. I mean, you extrapolate that out, and that's like 33 significant strikes over a 15-minute fight. How the fuck do you win landing 33 significant strikes unless you're knocking the guy down? Unless one of those 33 lands seriously hard, knocks your opponent down to the point where you either finish him or get a 10-8 round. So it's just, that volume is something we have to speak about with Till. However, the power numbers for Till are fantastic. He's landing a knockdown on 1.6% of the significant strikes that he lands. And Derek Brunson's been very chinny, as he's been knocked down on 1.19% of the significant strikes that he's absorbing. And he's been knocked out in 4 of his 5 UFC losses and 5 of his 7 professional losses. So definitely a path inside the distance for Till. And then if we look at Derek Brunson on the grappling side, I mean, he's got his own power in his own right. Brunson's landing a significant strike, a knockdown on about 1% of the significant strikes that he lands. He's got a positive significant strike ratio at 3.55 compared to 2.84, while Till is absorbing more than he lands. So I would give Till just a little bit of the striking advantage, because he's the more likely one to land a big shot, but the volume advantage definitely goes to Brunson. If we look at Till only 12 takedown attempts in 10 fights. He doesn't go to the wrestling much. He's only got 7% control time. While Derek Brunson, we can see the clash in styles here, as he's got a 38.41% control time, and he's only yielding 2.18% control time. He's out takedowning his opponents at a 29-to-1 ratio. Derek Brunson has 29 UFC takedowns. Derek Brunson's opponents have 1 takedown against. So if there's one guy here that's likely to succeed in the grappling, it's going to be Derek Brunson. The guy is much more of an active wrestler. He's got absolutely flawless takedown defense at 15 of 16 defended successfully, 94% career takedown defense for Derek Brunson. While Darren Till has seen some pretty active wrestlers in his past, as he has faced 41 takedown attempts in only 10 fights. His takedown defense clocking in at 83%, which is excellent. For a guy whose opponents are out takedowning, attempting him like 3.5 to 1, he's only being out-controlled 2 to 1. So Till is most comfortable striking, and he is doing a good job at keeping the fight in the striking realm 80% of the time. While it's only about 60% of the time for Brunson, he can land a big shot, but Brunson has been most successful lately by going to that wrestling. And I think he's going to have to do it against Till, because I don't think standing at range waiting for Till to throw is how Brunson's going to fight. He has been shown a lot more patience lately, but I think he's going to have to go to this grappling. If we look at the strength of schedule numbers, they're really almost identical. A 1.79 ratio for Brunson, a 1.73 ratio for Till, 13.5 total fights for Brunson, 13.1 total fights for Till. Maybe Till's wins a little bit better. Maybe Brunson's losses a little bit tougher competition, but it's pretty much negligible. These guys are on very even footing. Brunson's going to have that grappling and wrestling advantage. Till is going to have probably the striking advantage. Experience almost identical here, which is more high-level experience for Brunson. And then Till, 9 years younger, I think is important, even though Brunson 1 inch taller, 3 inches reach advantage. Southpaw versus southpaw matchup. I don't know which way. I need you to help me out on this one, man. Which way are you leaning here?
I'm leaning that I really don't like this line. You see that Darren Till opened up minus 130. He's now minus 175. And Brunson is plus 150, open up plus 110. So money's coming on Till. I get it. The problem with that is he'll never see me betting a Darren Till money line because I might as well just bet the knockout prop, right? Like that's how he wins the fight. I can't bet Till's money line because he just, like you said, he doesn't do anything. He doesn't do anything at all. But what he does do well is he has a ton of power. And you mentioned it, Brunson is very, very chinny. You take a look at Brunson's losses in the UFC, and when he's losing, more often than not, he's losing inside the distance by knockout. Got knocked out by Yoel Romero. Got knocked out by Jacare Souza. Got knocked out by Robert Whitaker. Had a decision loss to Anderson Silva, but got knocked out by Souza once more and got knocked out by Israel Adesanya. So when he is losing inside the distance, and Darren Till has a ton of power. So for me, I'm kind of looking at the knockout prop for Darren Till, which I believe is plus 220 on FanDuel Sportsbook. I think I might just do that because I think there is a good chance that he does knock out Brunson. But if Till does not knock out Brunson, like Brunson has a decent shot to win this fight, right? Like maybe mixing a takedown here or there, just being more active, throwing more. So if it does go to decision, and I have a Darren Till ticket, like I'm going to be, very scared because he just doesn't do much. So for me, I'm going to be taking a hard look at that the knockout prop for Darren Till. We do see the over-under set at 4.5 rounds. The under is minus 170. The over 4.5 rounds is plus 140. Fight doesn't go to decision. I see it on FanDuel Sportsbook at minus 154. But I'm going to take Darren Till to win. I think he's going to knock out Derek Brunson. Brunson, very chinny. Also, the wrestling aspect of things, if he is able to take down Till, which I do think he can he do it for 5 rounds? He was able to do it for 5 rounds against Kevin Holland. But, man, he was getting very tired in that fight. And Kevin Holland was giving literally no resistance at all. Kevin Holland was just kind of, content to be on his back for 25 minutes. So I do think Till will make it a little bit harder on Brunson there. Till has a very good takedown defense. Till has a very good get-up game. But, I think, Till has 25 minutes to land a big shot. I think he does. But again, if I bet minus 170 on Till and it does go the distance, I don't know. Brunson could very well win. But for me, I will go Till knockout there.
Yeah, it's a hard one to call because, stylistically we see that this is going to should be, striker versus grappler with Till being the striker. And when the striker has, 83% takedown defense and not just, facing one takedown attempt per fight here, we're talking about 4.1 takedown attempts per fight that he's facing, 83% takedown defense, only 13% control time allowed on 7 total takedowns. Yeah, man. His takedown defense is impressive. You could certainly see Brunson trying to go to the wrestling early and often and then just gassing because it's so hard to offensively wrestle for 5 rounds. And even he got tired against a guy like Holland who offered little to no resistance against the takedowns. Now you got a guy in Till who's a legit 83% takedown defense against guys like Whitaker, Gastelum, Masvidal, Woodley, Wonderboy Thompson, really good opponents. So, I could see Till finishing this, and I could see Brunson potentially winning a decision, winning minutes, even getting a knockdown in his own right, because it's not like Till hasn't been knocked down. He's absorbed 3 knockdowns in 413 significant strikes against. So it's not just Brunson that's chinny. Till's getting knocked down too here. So I think the value is definitely on Brunson here at plus money because he seems to be the more well-rounded guy. He's got power in his own right, and he can be pretty explosive early in fights as well as we've seen in the past. So I would lean Brunson on the value side here. I think that Till, though, is the pick. But I do kind of like that under 4.5 at about what, minus 170, did you say?
Yeah, but actually FanDuel Sportsbook has the fight doesn't go to decision at minus 154. So might as well.
See, now there you go. That's even better. So yeah, that's that feels pretty good to me. 5 rounds, I could see Brunson, if he's unsuccessful using the wrestling, that he could definitely gas out. And if he does get this fight to the ground, we saw how quickly Woodley finished Till on the ground with that Darce choke. So potentially we could see Brunson getting some ground and pound or getting Till out of there. So yeah, I kind of like that under 4.5. I think Brunson's the value side because I see this fight being pretty close to 50-50.
Yeah, I feel like it is going to look 50-50 up until there is a potential finish. So, the Till by knockout actually opened up plus 340 on FanDuel. That's been getting bet to 320 to 250. Now it's plus 220. I do like the Till by KO, and also, yeah, like you mentioned, the fight doesn't go to decision. Minus 154. I do like that as well. Kind of covers both sides. For me, though, I will pick Till, but I do agree that the value side is probably on Brunson, because if there is no Till knockout, I don't think he's going to look minus 170 whatsoever. So that's about it. We did go through 10 fights. We lost the one fight, which is going to be rescheduled for the 18th of September. So yeah, small card, 10 fights, and we are in Vegas. So hopefully we do not lose any more of those fights. Cannot afford to lose any this week. Uncle Weezy, let them know where they can find you and what you have going on throughout the week. I know last week you were a content machine. Never seen anybody do so much content. Let us know what you got going on this week here.
Absolutely, man. You can find me on Twitter at MMA Weezy. You can find me on YouTube, Uncle Weezy. I do balls deep breakdowns of fights on my channel, usually 2 to 3 every week. I do a full card breakdown, which is a sensual prelude to the balls deep breakdown, which I call Just the Tip. And you can find me on Pub Sports Radio every Sunday night, 6:15 p.m. Central Time for Stat Diggers, and every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. for the DraftKings show on Pub Sports. Thanks for having me once again, Brady. Thank all of you that hung out with us on a Sunday night. We appreciate each and every one of you that takes your time to hang out with us and watch Stat Diggers, my favorite show. So I'm glad you guys like it too. Thank you. God bless all of you guys.
Appreciate you as always, Weezy, for bringing the stats. This show would not be possible without you. Let's say that. So you can find me on Twitter, DFS_numbers. Instagram is DFS by the numbers. I have a lot going on throughout the week as well. Me and Uncle Weezy doing that main event deep dive that'll be posted tomorrow on my channel, DFS by the numbers. My full card breakdown and prediction video will be posted Tuesday morning. Friday, I go live 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. And then Saturday, I go live 1 hour prior to when the prelims start. A new show that I'm doing called Best Bet, which you will see Uncle Weezy on there as well on Saturday. Looking forward to that as well. And yeah, guys, that's about it. If you guys can leave a like on your way out, also subscribe here to Pub Sports. That would be awesome. Getting really close to 10K subs on Pub Sports. Hopefully hit that in the very near future. And yeah, good luck. We'll see you guys soon. And thanks again for hanging out. See you guys.